California State Parks, I would like to welcome you to Hearst San Simeon State Historical Monument, better known as Hearst Castle. As we begin the riding portion of your tour, we ask for your cooperation. Please stay seated at all times and keep your head and arms inside the windows. Please turn your cell phones to mute. If you have trash to dispose of, there will be a trash container when you exit. Bottled water is allowed, but food and chewing gum are not permitted on the bus or during the walking tour. We thank you for your assistance in helping to maintain this beautiful place. The road you are traveling is the same one the art collector and newspaper publisher William Randolph Hearst traveled when he began building this estate with his architect Julia Morgan in 1919. They worked on this project for 28 years. We will pass a large Spanish-style house built in the 1930s as the poultry ranch manager's residence. It is still used by Hearst ranch employees today. All his life, William Randolph Hearst referred to this place as the Ranch at San Simeon, even though in later years he gave it a more formal name, La Cuesta Encantada, the Enchanted Hill. His hilltop estate became one of the most glamorous country houses in America. It was also Mr. Hearst's primary residence on the West Coast, and a place to showcase a stunning collection of Mediterranean art objects, shown against the backdrop of California's beautiful natural landscape. Hundreds of glamorous guests traveled this same road to visit the castle in the 1920s and 30s. But imagine Mr. Hearst first as young Willie, a boy following his father along the winding bridle path that would become this road, climbing on horseback 1,600 feet, or 488 meters, to a hilltop that was often sunny when the fog shrouded the coast during the summertime. Later in life, Mr. Hearst said that the road was so steep and the way so rocky that he only managed by hanging on to the tail of my pony. George Hearst knew California's landscape well, having traveled west as a miner from Missouri in the 1850s looking for gold. The geology that caused these steep hills to rise from the ocean floor millions of years ago was the same factor that brought precious minerals like gold, silver, and copper closer to the Earth's surface, allowing them to wash down the high mountain creeks of the West. Though thousands came west looking for easy riches during the gold rush, few succeeded. George Hearst was a skilled miner and geologist and became one of America's richest men with investments in Comstock silver, Anaconda copper, and Homestake gold mines. But he never mined in this region. George Hearst bought the land at San Simeon in 1865 as a cattle and horse ranch. He had married Phoebe Apperson Hearst in 1862, and their only child Willie was born in 1863. All three Hearsts grew to love this ranch, and they added to it until it eventually totaled over 250,000 acres, or more than 100,000 square hectares. You will also see open-fronted shelters made of logs that were built for animals in Mr. Hearst's zoo. His love of animals drove him to create the largest private zoo in America, filled with exotic animals from all over the world. You may see herds of tawny animals that resemble mountain goats. They are known as audads and are descendants from Mr. Hearst's original herd, still roaming these hills and mingling with the cattle. Originally, this land was home to Native Americans of the Chumash and Salinan peoples, who lived there for over 9,000 years. It was claimed by Spain after 1769, and then settled by Californio cattle ranchers during a brief period of Mexican ownership. California joined the United States in 1850, soon after gold was discovered. George Hearst bought 3 ranchos and continued to run cattle on the hilly expanses above the Pacific. And 150 years later, this is still a family cattle ranch. The Hearst Corporation runs over 2,000 head of grass-fed beef on these hills today, largely black and red Angus. The cattle graze much as they always have, and depending on the season, you may see them along the hillsides. William Randolph Hearst was 56 in 1919 when his mother Phoebe died, his father having passed away earlier. William inherited this land he had loved nearly all his life and immediately hired a talented and singular architect, Julia Morgan, whose firm was located in San Francisco. Hearst was overheard walking into Miss Morgan's office and announcing he was tired of camping in tents. "I'm getting a little old for that. I'm thinking of building a little something." Well, his little something became this estate of more than 165 rooms, and he chose to build it on the hill which had served as his family's original campsite. Julia Morgan's first challenges were to make a road from the old bridle path, and also to bring water from the natural springs that were located on a mountain almost 6 miles east of this hilltop. To this day, water provided to the estate comes from the same 1.5 million gallon reservoir built by Miss Morgan and Mr. Hearst in the 1930s. Some of it is stored in tanks atop the castle's bell towers. You may also glimpse a 16 million gallon reservoir recently built by the Hearst Corporation to provide water for the current family ranch operation. The Mediterranean climate of this region brings hot, dry summers and cool, wet winters, a perfect setting for the native oak trees known as coastal live oaks, or Quercus agrifolia. These are the large trees we pass, which have spreading low branches, small dark green leaves, and rough brown bark. Mr. Hearst and Miss Morgan designed the road to wind around the trees, some of which are more than 300 years old. On the hilltop, they sited the buildings around the oaks, and occasionally even moved a massive oak out of the way as the castle grew. You'll notice the hillsides are also covered with grasses. With the winter rains, these grasses turn a rich green. In the summer and fall, they change color to a golden brown. Mr. Hearst filled these pastures with his exotic zoo animals. In his day, guests traveling this road would have passed by antelopes, yaks, giraffes, llamas, water buffalo, bison, and more than 100 other species. Most are gone now, but in addition to the audads, today you might see sambar deer and Roosevelt elk mingled with the cattle. Keep watching, and you may also glimpse some animals native to the area, including deer, foxes, and coyotes, as well as the large black birds that soar through the skies, known as turkey vultures. The views of the coastline can be quite spectacular on clear days. So too are the views of the twin-towered structure Hearst and Julia Morgan called Casa Grande, which means big house in Spanish, now commonly referred to as the castle. The road was designed so the castle would appear and disappear as you climb higher. Upon reaching the top of the knoll, we will travel through a landscaped area filled with fruit trees, which supplied some of the food in Hearst's time at the ranch. He grew nearly all his food on site, including beef, poultry, dairy products, and fruits and vegetables. You may also see on the left the remains of a columned arbor known as the pergola. It was a path for walking or riding through on horseback. Its columns were planted with fruit trees, apples, quince, plums, cherries, peaches, and apricots, among others, and it was canopied with grapes. At over a mile in length, it was laughingly referred to by Julia Morgan as the longest pergola in captivity. hilltop, your walking tour is about to begin. We ask for your help again, preserving this remarkable estate. While on tour, please touch only the handrails of concrete and black iron, and avoid touching or leaning against any other objects. When inside the buildings, please remain on the tour carpeting. Flash photography is allowed outdoors only. Please turn off your flash when you go inside the buildings. Your tour will take a one-way route over the hilltop without doubling back, so be sure to take your photographs when you see them. Photography for personal use is very much encouraged, but written permission must be obtained for publication. Please turn off your cell phones or put them on mute. Bottled water is allowed, but no other food or drink. Chewing gum must be disposed of in the trash containers as you leave the bus. We request that you stay with your group at all times. Ask your guides if you need any assistance. And now we invite you to imagine what it would have been like to visit this glamorous estate in Mr. Hearst's time. For him, it was always the enchanted hill. Get ready for your enchantment to begin.